Welcome everyone to See I Am Me. I am your host, Rashawn Warren. We're here for you. Real people, real stories, hoping that you can get something from what we provide to you. Today, I have a repeat guest, Chaplain Colonel Shabazz. Now, as you know from before, we had a quick dialogue. We talked true grit, but now we're going to come with something a little bit different. Now we're going to chap it up. Welcome, everyone. This is Rashawn Warren, your host to See I Am Me. See yourself, be yourself. Today, we have a repeat guest, as I mentioned before. We got Colonel Chaplain Shabazz. So today, he's going to come and talk to you guys about spiritual wisdom. If you didn't know, Chaplain Shabazz is the Army's highest ranking Muslim chaplain. No easy feat. No easy feat. So we're in the room. Tell us about yourself once again. Tell us about yourself.
Woo! Listen, I'm a highly motivated, innovative, creative, loving people type guy, man. It's amazing, when you say stuff like that, the highest ranking Muslim chaplain in military history of all chaplains. Come on, brother. I mean, I'm just a guy who was in special education in the 8th grade. And to hear somebody say a title like that, I mean, it's overwhelming for me, actually. But, I embrace it, and I try to use that to help anybody that I can. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, I mentioned it, and the only reason I mentioned it because it's true. You did that. No one else can say that they did that. So, today we're gonna kind of get into the spiritual part of things. Now, I can't say that I'm qualified to impart good spiritual wisdom upon people, but one thing I do know that you can. And so the goal here today is kind of to get your perspective on things in that realm and help people kind of navigate their life challenges, with that guidance that you got from ministry in your eyes. Like I told people during the first show, how I met you. I'll tell this quick story. I didn't tell you exactly kind of how I met him, but I'm in the gym playing basketball. Once upon a time, I was decent. I was a decent player. So, I think I'm a youngster at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I'm in the gym. I'm hooping, and this other big guy gets on the court. I'm 6'7". By then, I think I was like 260. The big guy, like, okay, I got some competition. So we're going at it. I'm throwing my elbows. He's being physical. I'm being physical. I say a few choice words because that's what's in my soul, right? So it's in my soul to talk that smack. We get done hooping. I'm on the sideline, sitting on the bench. He sits next to me and he says, "Hey, brother, you shouldn't cut at the chaplain." I was like, "Who's the chaplain?" He's like, "I'm the chaplain." I'm like, "Oh, my bad." And that is how we met, right? So I felt so embarrassed. I was like, golly. But you know what? But since then, we've been rocking with each other. He's been a mentor, he's been a coach, he's been a friend, family friend, out on the court when my son was coming up, all of this stuff happened. But I say all of that to say is that's how I had the ability to communicate with him over the duration of my career. I've had an opportunity to receive that spiritual insight from him just in normal conversation. He's been imparting wisdom on me as a man ever since my younger years. And I just want to open up the door and let him introduce himself to you and tell about his spiritual background and how he came to be before we get started into the show. Your world, Chaplain.
Now let's talk about the initial meeting and the spirituality behind that meeting. So he's throwing elbows at me. He's throwing. I mean, he's act because I was the man. I mean, I'm in the gym. Everybody's looking up to me, and so he kind of ate my lunch that day. And so I said, man, how can I overtake this guy? So I sat down on the bench and I said, you shouldn't cuss at the chaplain. So therefore, I won because psychologically I made him feel bad. You're always seeking to win, but no, man, it's a joy to be able to, and that's to me that's part of spirituality. Honestly, while we're joking and laughing, is to be able to be with your parishioners in a moment like that, right? See, spirituality, in my opinion, right, transcends these titles that we give ourselves, like Christians and Jews and Muslims. Being out there with you guys, and everybody knew that I was on the court. And if you notice, when they said that's the chaplain, they didn't say that's the Muslim chaplain. They said that was the chaplain because I was their chaplain. And so when they came to me, we talked about life. We talked about manhood. I've been knowing you for over 15, 20 years. We ain't never talked about religion because religion is not in a book. Religion is in your very essence and your soul. So when we talking about family issues, we talking about son issues, we talking about basketball issues, we talking about military issues. See, that's the essence to me of what spirituality is, right? And so a lot of times we get into these dogmatic fights about who's right and who's wrong and who going to hell and who going to heaven. See, I don't participate in that stuff because for me, spirituality is uplifting God's people. And that's what I do on a daily basis. And that's who I am.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for that lay down, Chaplain. Thanks. That's a good segue into our commercial break before we get into the first segment. Yeah. So let's go to commercial break and we'll come back with some fire.
Woo! Focus up. Hey, man, zoom in. Hey. Welcome. My name is Chris Rubio of the Rubio Method. Soak it in. Wear it as a nice sweatshirt, a nice yellow sweatshirt. See if it fits. And it may be something you say, okay, I'm listening to you, but I don't really like it. Not for me. What the hell are you thinking? You have no idea what you're talking about. You have issues because of your bad taste.
Chaplain Shabazz, we're back. So as we started talking about in the topic of Chap It Up, I know I stole your topic because I know you got your own show called Chap It Up. So I just want to make sure I give you your props.
No, I'm good.
I just titled it Chap It Up because I thought it was fitting. So instead of chop it up, we're gonna chap it up. From your perspective, sir, what guidance? How can we tailor spiritual guidance to resonate with men in midlife and beyond?
This is going to sound really weird, and maybe it's just because I'm so biased and I'm a gym guy. But you're talking about, if you're talking specifically men or women, but men have a warrior animal instinct, right? And you can see that in most men. So, for me, getting up, going to the gym every morning at a specific time, doing specific things, that brings out not only a physical aspect of me, but a spiritual aspect of consistency, hard work, and self-esteem, because every morning I get to accomplish something. And so when you have a sense of accomplishment, it helps you with your insecurities. To me, it helps you with your spirituality. It helps you realize in the physical realm, you've accomplished something. In the spiritual realm, life is all about growth and progress and maturity. And so for me, those things are congruent.
Yeah. The spiritual aspect is sometimes missing with folks. I came up in a family where, we went to church almost every day. Yes. We were Tuesday, they had the men's group when I was super young.
Yep.
And then on Thursdays or Fridays we had choir practice. Sundays we went to Bible school.
Yep.
Then we went to church.
Yep.
And then we went to revival.
Yep.
So a lot of that was being put inside of me as a youngster by my mom and my grandma. Just I guess in their sense, trying to give me some tools in order to live by, in order to have something to base my life upon.
That's right.
And I guess I would attribute that to a strategy. I think they had a strategy in order to help me believe and become the individual that they thought I should be. So when you start talking about strategies, what in your eyes as a chaplain, like what strategies could people use to help encourage self-belief?
Well, and I want to go back to this childhood thing. All of those things you talk about, I obviously was a part of. Bible study, not men's group, but going to church 4 or 5 times a week, going to the sermons and all that kind of stuff. And our single mothers were just doing the best that they could to try to help us to have some values and integrity. And it's not their fault, but part of the thing that they missed really was the manhood training. Right. And that manhood training was absent because I didn't have a father there. That was absent from me. And so I was struggling trying to find out what that meant. Now you go to the streets, and the streets teach you a level of manhood that is erroneous and is dysfunction. Right? It's dysfunctional. And so now you think fighting, you think putting people down, you think people cursing people out. You think all of these dysfunctional things are part of being a man. And so therefore, you grow up dysfunctional, right? And you grow up thinking about being a man is being angry, being a man is fighting, being a man is being a sports guy. All of those things contribute to a part of what we don't really tap into very well. And so when I think about strategies, right, from the chaplain perspective, for about 15 years now, every Wednesday at the chaplain's office, we have what's called warrior talks, right? We have warrior talks where men, women, and anybody from our organization come down and we talk life, right? We talk about men's and women's issues. We talk about men's issues. We talk about anything that they want to talk about. The only rule is we don't have a person going at the other person. The idea is out there, and then whoever wants to speak to the idea speaks to the idea. What that does as a strategy, it gives you an opportunity for preventive measures, at least in my case. The chaplain is cool. We can talk about whatever he wants, whatever we want to talk about. We in the chaplain's office, we let some cuss words go, right? Because I don't care about that stuff, right? As long as you are, kind of professional about it, because people need to express themselves. And so as a preventive measure, now that I'm cool, they're going to stop me anywhere and talk. Hey, chaplain, I've been struggling with my marriage. Hey, chaplain, I've been struggling with porn. Hey, chaplain, I've been struggling with this, because they know now that I'm non-judgmental. So now I can help them on this so-called spiritual journey that all of us are on from the time that we are born, right? And so that gives me an opportunity to reach out to soldiers and talk to soldiers. So that's my strategy.
Oh yeah, that's a good strategy. Allowing people to be comfortable in your presence.
Yes.
I think that gets lost sometimes. I'll just talk about the leadership as a whole, right? Not even from a spiritual perspective, is that we're the people organization. So in a people organization, you yourself have to be a people person.
That's right.
Especially for the chaplaincy.
That's right.
I got to say in my mind, like I need to go talk to the chaplain and get some advice because I'm struggling right now.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be like, man, I ain't gonna talk to the chaplain. And
That's right.
he gonna get on me. If I say a cuss word around him,
That's
gonna
right.
shut me down, right?
That's right.
And then you lose your effectiveness.
That's correct.
I think that's a phenomenal strategy to let people come to you, and you being so personable in order to really get at the root of things that are going on with people.
Yeah.
But as it pertains to like guys and girls as well that are in like that 40, 50, 60 age demographic, I know you as being a senior chaplain, like you address a lot of adults that come see you.
Yeah.
So as being an adult, as a 50-ish year old man,
ish,
it's been a 50-year-ish man, and you having other people within that 40, 50 age range coming to talk to you. How do you address those challenges? Because it obviously is different than the youngster coming to talk to you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and when I talk to older people, I talk about acceptance, right? So, acceptance is a hell of a thing, right? When you are a person of 40, 50 years old, if you're doing the same thing you did when you were 20, you're already way off course, right? People talk about the good old days, right? That's right. They were good because they were olden days. Now you're stepping into a new phase of your life. You can't do what you did when you were 25. Let me say you can't do it. You shouldn't do it, because now you're stepping into a new phase of your life, and you can have this new phase and still have fun. You just got to find out a different type of fun, right? Fun doesn't have to be dysfunctional, right? And that's the real key. All of the good old days were like super dysfunctional, right? So now you got to find a new way to have fun. And I often tell people, I don't know what that is for you, right? Let's sit down and figure out what piques your interest, right? And second of all, this is very important. Your lifestyle change shouldn't be based on other people's opinions, right? That's huge. For me, when I decided to do my lifestyle change, man, I was catching so much flack. Now, you're a basketball player, you're a sports guy, those basketball teams are toxic. I mean, they so toxic. They so toxic. They so toxic. I got married, I got 2 kids, and I said to myself, man, I just got to change. I don't want to drink no more. I don't want to be running around on my wife no more. I want to be a role model for my kids, right? And so I asked my dear wife, I said, everywhere that I go, I want you with me, right? I don't care if I'm going to this corner store. I don't care if I'm going to the car wash. Long story short, one day she was tired. She's dealing with the kids. I go to the car wash by myself. And so my basketball buddies are out there. And they come around the car, they opening up the trunk. They was like, hey, man, what's up? I said, babe, what's going on? Oh, your wife ain't in there. Oh, you don't want to hang with us no more and go chase no honeys. I'm like, bro, I'm trying to change my life. Oh, man, you a punk. We chilling, we in the club. And so I said, after a couple of times of that, I got some courage, because it takes some courage to stand up to them guys, even though I was, as big as all of them. And I said, man, you guys are going in the club, you guys are fighting, and you guys are cheating on your wives, and you getting drunk, right? And I said, a couple of y'all done made the blotter. I said, I got kids, man. I'm trying to do better. And as well as I do, they said, oh, man, that's great. I'm so proud of you. As well as I do, they didn't say that. And so, man, they got on me really bad and said I was, this and that and that. And I just decided, I got to be honest with you. I got a saying that I say all the time: if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. And so I just stopped hanging with those guys. And to your surprise, I stopped playing post basketball, and I just started reading books and going to school. And a lot of those guys, they used to see me around posts and mock me. And I didn't want to fight them because I was trying to change my life. But what's interesting about life? You're talking about a spiritual journey. Here we are 25 years later, and those guys on the internet saying, oh, my God, man, I'm so proud of you. I wish I'd have had the courage to do that, what you did. Man, you're such a role model and inspiration. I'm saying to myself, man, if I would have listened to you, I'd be 10 baby daddies.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
You know, we gotta we all at some point have that epiphany, if you will, right? We all at some point say, you know, this ain't how I see myself
That's
in the
right.
future. You
That's right.
know, we and sometimes the thing that helps us is that spiritual guidance that we get. You know, like I said before, like my grandma and my mom, they put that in me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, not only in the institution, meaning the church, you know, when I say
Yeah.
institution, but at home, you know, like I remember like reading stories about Noah and Ark, you know, like reading about Jesus, like
Yeah.
reading about all these different things as a youngster, which inherently like started to shape my spiritual path and how I treated other people. But you're absolutely correct, right? In the younger years, the formative years, I
Yeah.
was one person.
Yeah.
In college, I was another person. And after college, I was another person. Once I had a kid, I was another person.
Yeah.
I'm still Rashawn, but I went through all these different phases, and what I had at the beginning as far as spiritual capacity went away at some point. Just being honest, it went away at some point. I didn't think about it. I was off to my own devices when I was in college. I was doing my own thing, right? I was free. I didn't have to go
Yeah.
to church every day no more. You know,
Yeah.
like all these things were happening.
That's
And
right.
then when I got older, I enjoyed watching Rakim do
Yeah.
his Easter speech.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
enjoy watching him learn.
Absolutely.
Um, and before we go into the next phase of this interview, I want to take a quick commercial break so we can let people know about NGBN TV and how they like welcome us into the fold and gave us this opportunity. And then we'll get right back with Chap It Up.
Hey, it's AC of AC Sports Live, an interactive sports talk show where your comments are part of the show. Every show we focus on the sports stories of today with commentary on sports takes, my 2 cents, which is a reaction to my social media feed, Sports Flicks, where we take a look at sports movies and give a quick review. We have a segment called Mental Reps, where we have words of inspiration to help battle the dark side of men's mental health. And then there's the Tender Love Report. Who's being soft or petty in the world of sports? All takes are welcome under one condition. Say it with your chest. I'll see you there.
That last little piece before commercial break. And we talked about some good things. We talk about how the spirituality, is helping move us forward, how our lives change, how people try to influence us, and we need something to base our own self upon. And we quickly talked about how listening to people can probably push you in a direction that
That's
you
right.
didn't want to be.
That's right.
So we're talking through all that. I got a question for your mental capacity to ponder. So, when we're thinking about that, how can we foster a sense of purpose and direction for men transitioning through life?
To touch on the last subject, I want to say something about you that I observed and never told you. In your times of spirituality, where I seen you is where I came. I watched all of y'all interactions. I would be on Facebook looking at you guys playing ball, looking at you guys laughing, you guys are eating. For me, people don't really, in my estimation, understand that is actually real spirituality. That is actually passing on God in however you see him to the next generation. That person, that DNA, that offspring, to me, is emblematic of who you are and who you're supposed to be. I used to look at that and say, man, I am so happy he's in his son's life like that, because in his son's worst times, he got a figure that is closer to him than God. I know that's not going to be very well received through the spiritual realm, but I tell you what, when my children call me and say, Dad, I have had the worst day in my life, I just want to hear your voice. That is, to me, a step below prayer, because I've been in their life their whole lives. I am glad that I made that decision and not listen to my friends, because they won't have the type of issues. They will have issues. Trust me, they all grown now and they got issues. But they don't have the issue of, in their worst time, being able to call God's representative in their life to say, Dad, I need to hear your voice. Man, I tell you, I wish people could get that. Sometimes we are so dysfunctional spiritually, physically, mentally. We pass that junk down to our children. I was on an interview the other day. Obviously, I do a lot of interviews, and they were talking about parenting. And they was talking to me how I parent grown kids. I said, I don't. I said, I treat my friends, my wife, my children, and my colleagues the same. I am an inspirational figure in their lives. I don't lecture my kids. My kids can call me for advice and I'll give them advice, but I don't tell them which direction to go, right? Because they have to make that decision. I'll give them 2 courses of action, just like I give my commander 3 courses of action, and I want them to decide. They have so many people in their lives beating them down. I don't want to be that figure. My wife, I've been married for 31 years. I don't say a negative word to my wife. If my wife asks me a question about something, I'll give her my opinion based upon how I live my life, but I never, ever, ever put her down. I had to learn that, right? After the first 10 years, because nobody taught me how to be married. I treat your audience is not going to like this either. I treat everybody in my life how I treat my subordinates. In the Army, our job is to teach, coach, and mentor. Uplift those soldiers to get them to the next level. And so when people come in my life, my wife was giving this speech the other day, and she's not a public speaker like I am, and she was having some anxiety. I sent her a note. You are powerful. Your aura, your disposition, your words will impact this audience, and they will remember you forever, right? And so on and so forth. And I love you. And she sent a note back, and she said, that is just what I needed. Now I'm calm, because she had all kind of anxiety. But my point to that is, that's what's spiritual. I don't have to quote to them 8,000 verses from the scripture, right? I need to be the scripture.
Be it.
I'm the scripture. Kindness, love, inspiration, and motivation and advocacy for them. I am the scripture.
Yeah, super powerful. I think about what you just said, me spending a lot of time with Rakim. That still goes back to based off how my mom and my grandma raised me. Rakim is a beneficiary of my pain.
Yes.
And when I say he's a beneficiary of my pain, I mean, like, I always wanted to have a father, I guess, because I saw everybody else with a father, right?
Yeah.
And, when I go to church, I see people there with their families, with their dad, and, was kind of envious of them. And I didn't know how to be a father, right? The only thing I know is spiritually what my mom and grandma then put in me as a youngster, and what I wanted to feel like if I had a dad.
That's right.
So I did every single thing that I wanted to experience growing up with Rakim.
That's right.
I like consider him my bestest of friends. But one time when he was young, I told him, I said, Rakim, you my best friend. He said, you ain't my best friend. I was like, oh, he's like, you my dad. That's
right.
way better than a best friend.
Right.
And I was like, man, I mean, but I think, like I said, the pain
It's good.
made me the dad that I was and the absence of a father. But that spirituality that my mom and my grandma gave me at that point in my life was able to drive me and move me forward. And I totally agree. Like the concept of spirituality, the concept of belief in higher beings, but is important. But the belief in self and the positivity that you can give to other people is just as important. So when we started thinking about that, for like, man, so a lot of times, like we spoke earlier, as a youngster, you fully vibrant, you moving forward, you got things going for you. Your body's strong, your mind is becoming stronger. But then once you hit that midlife, something starts to happen. I'm aching a little bit. I'm breaking down. I can't do the things that I would typically do. My physical prowess is declining, and you're starting to see it. But how would you tell the individual that hit that midlife and start experiencing those challenges of transitioning? How can spirituality help them through that?
See, and I'm going to go back to my original point. Spirituality is physical, right? Spirituality is understanding what transition is. Spirituality is saying, I know they said that I'm supposed to be breaking down at this age. Yeah, I can't go in and work out for 5 hours no more, but I can tell you what, I don't know any 55-year-olds that I know that's bench pressing 405, right? I built up to that because I didn't want to accept what people said that I'm supposed to be, right? And so when you're talking about spiritual maturity, you understand that you are the author of how you proceed in life. So if I need to go in and take more vitamins, if I need to go in and eat less fat, if I need to, whatever I need to do, I'm going to do that to have some semblance of still being a warrior. Second of all, the process of transformation now, as a mature spiritual person, I know that I have to pour in to other people this wisdom, this knowledge, this understanding. This was important about our sons. I was coaching my son, and I'm a pretty tough guy, and he's playing safety. Some guy runs over him. He starts crying, and I jack him up. I mean, I jack him up, and I'm in his face, terrorizing this little dude. And his mom looks at me, after I calm down, and she said, in the future, you're going to have a horrible relationship with your son. And I know that's not what you desire. And of course, I'm a hothead. I'm saying, be quiet. We got to raise him to be tough. So this carried on for about a year. And I noticed my son kind of stopped speaking to me and talking to me. He used to come in for practice, lay his head on my shoulder, but he stopped doing that, right? And I started to think about what my wife said. And I was losing this kid, right? Because I'm trying to make him into something tough like they tell us he has to be. So here we are, Ray. We're talking about he hits 52 points. They was calling him Little LeBron when he was 12, right? And I come over to the side. He comes over to the sideline, hugs his mom, and don't even acknowledge me, right? I'm like, oh. And so I decided at that point, you talk about spiritual growth, I'm losing my son, man. I will no longer give him advice about basketball. I'm just going to love him, right? And so when you're talking about moving into this realm, I had to move in and mature enough to realize that boy needed a daddy. He didn't need another dictator. And so to me, I have a different way or congruent way of looking at this thing we call spirituality.
Yeah. I'm on board with you 100%. It's the perception,
Yes.
of how we all see the world. We all see the world differently, and I guess if we all saw spirituality or anything, if for the matter of fact, the same way, then what would be the importance of it? We all have different views of the world and how we navigate through our lives.
Right.
And thinking about the different perspectives and all, as you shared your example, I guess, like, how would we inspire confidence and self-motivation in men that are like in their 50s or so? And the only reason I say in their 50s or so, 40s or 50s or so, because like you talked about a transformational time in your life with your kid. So, like, how do we continue to inspire that confidence and self-motivation to men to say, hey, I can continue to move forward for a potential life reassessment?
Yeah, when you're talking about moving forward, it's about growth, right? Growth comes through looking at things on TV, on video, reading books, and also reassessing yourself, right? A lot of us don't like to reassess ourselves, right? I grew up a hothead. I grew up fighting. I grew up in the hood, and I had a perception of what tough was, right? That's a poor perception. I needed that to grow up. I needed that to make it through my neighborhood. This kid grew up in the suburbs. Right? This kid,
Yeah,
this
totally
kid grew
different
up
from you.
totally different. He at 16, he driving a 320Z to Harker Heights High School.
Mm.
He don't know my life, but I'm trying to put that on him, and I'm getting mad at him because he ain't tough enough. And so for me, reading, looking at other things other than the way I was raised, that's really the way you grow. Nobody can actually give that to you. You have to search it out, right? And so I would see people with great relations. That's why I love you and Rakim's. See you guys. I would see people with great relationships. I'm like, man, I really want that with my son.
Mm.
Why don't I have that? And so I had to start reading books. I had to start looking at TV. I had to start doing something different so I could find a way back in this kid's life. I had a brigade commander. He wasn't my commander, but him and his son was tight, right? And so one day, we got a lot of pride. And so one day, I asked him, I said, man, you and your son are really tight, sir. How do you maintain a relationship with him? He said, I love him. I kiss him every night, tell him I love him and hug him. And anything that he is participating in, I go there and I'm just his dad. And this guy was our size. He was a Division I basketball player. He had done, his name Colonel Johnson. He had done all that stuff. But he said, I don't want to do that my dad did to me. I just want to be in his life. And that's when I changed my life to start treating my kid different. My son was like 9 years old at the time. And I said, man, I'm gonna be like Colonel Johnson. And that's what I did.
Oh man. So yeah, you had an example. Like you saw something
I saw
that you
something.
wanted and you attributed it to your life.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why we kind of talk about mentors and coaches, that provide us that perspective, that example,
Yeah.
And when we onto the topic of spirituality, I was like really impressed with you. I'm always impressed with you, but I was really impressed with you. I think you had came to Kuwait.
Yeah.
And to do some stuff out in Kuwait. And I just happened to be close to Kuwait, and you was like, hey, I'm coming. So I had to come there, and I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
excited. I told my commander, I said, hey, I gotta go see my chaplain. He was like, what? I said, I gotta go see my chaplain. I said, he's here in Kuwait. And when I went to the feast and I was sitting down with you and all of the other folks that was there because you was there, to be a mentor, a spiritual advisor, a
That's
guider to them. I was so impressed how everyone looked at you and sought that spiritual capacity. Those people were genuinely happy that they were in your presence. And I'm in the background, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, golly, man, look at the impact his spirituality is having on other Muslims. Like, look at the impact. And just to see it with my own eyes, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, these people believe that they're being guided in the right direction because they found an individual that delivers the word to them in the way that they want to receive it.
That's right.
And I was so impressed at that time. So we're going to take a quick commercial break before we move on. And then we'll keep that thought in mind, sir. Keep that thought in mind. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Hi, Joel Maurer, founder of Dink Ninjas. Dink Ninjas was dreamed up and started right here in Austin, Texas, a dynamic pickleball community. We arm pickleballers with the paddles, apparel, and accessories to dink like a ninja. Dink Ninjas is dedicated to supporting mental health awareness and cancer research. Shop our full lineup at dinkninjas.com.
All right, we're back in the game. So I'm passing the mic over to you, sir. You were getting ready to give us a thought before we went to commercial break.
Yeah, that event that you came to, one of the things I hope you noticed, although they were all religious people, we weren't talking about religion. Mm-hmm. We were talking about life. I was putting my hands on them. I was hugging them. I was asking about their families, right? They can get religious talk anywhere. And I know I was the focal person because I was the imam, the religious figure. But I wanted them to realize, when you talk about religious strategy, I wanted them to realize I loved them because of who they were and whatever they were going through in their life, that I was going to be there for them. It had two young ladies there. It had about 7 young ladies, but 2 young ladies in particular, they were standing off into the side. And I went over and talked to them. And they said, I mean, it almost made me cry. They say, "Oh my God, you are so down to earth. Like, we heard all of these things and we read the newspapers and this and that. We never thought that you would talk to us." You see, and this is the disconnect that we have in the world with religious figures or important people. You ain't more important than people's feelings, and so those people, to me, were there, and they got a whole transformational outlook on what they could be as opposed to what they should be, right? When I come around people, if I don't have on a uniform or somebody don't tell people who I am, this doesn't go over well with super religious people. But people wouldn't even know that I'm a chaplain because I'm just sitting down talking to people about everyday life, right? Because I don't have to quote 10,000 scriptures for people to think that I'm spiritual. And I'm a very religious person. I'm a very conservative person in that respect of what I will and what I will not do. But I don't impose that on other people.
Yeah, and I would say that kind of goes back to me not knowing that you were the chaplain when I first met you. I'm just out there in kill mode. I'm going after it. I'm going to get after it.
That's
and
right.
Then when I was like, oh, this is chaplain. I calm down. I had to tone myself down for a little bit. So you did psychologically win there, right? But going back to that day, impact. You always say be an impact person.
Yeah.
And your impact was the same in the States. Your impact was the same overseas. Your impact is high with individuals that aren't in the Army. It's high with individuals that are in the Army, but there are always detractors. Yeah. There are always those folks out there that look at your impact and would say like, hey, you're not doing this for the good reasons. You're not doing this the right way, or you're not doing this in alignment because your religion is not like my religion. You know, so I'm pretty sure, you know, you face all of those things, right?
Yep.
But when you think about giving spiritual guidance, like who says that you have to be one particular thing, right? I was talking to this guy one day. I think I was in Bahrain, and the guy, I told him that I knew you. I was like, "Oh yeah, my chaplain is this guy," and he was like, "Are you a Muslim?" That's the first thing he said to me.
That's right.
And, you know, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, he was another chaplain. I looked at him, and I didn't answer his question because, like, why did you come to that conclusion? Well, why does it matter to you?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Why does it matter? Because just because you're my chaplain, no one ever said that, hey, I had to believe in a certain thing for you to help me down my spiritual path.
That's right.
And in the Army, you know, like, everyone can come to you. It doesn't matter what your denomination is. Anyone can come to you and seek that spiritual guidance. And the great thing about it is, whether you're the 17-year-old dude that your mom had to sign for you to get in this thing, or whether you the 25-year-old dude who's starting a family, or whether you the 35-year-old dude that's just getting in the stride of your career, or whether you the 45-year-old dude that's leading the organization, or whether you the 55-year-old dude that has exited the organization, from a spiritual aspect, you're available.
Yes, absolutely.
So, with all of that being said, so what roles, we're going back to the mentor deal, so mentorship. So what roles has mentorship, or does mentorship play in helping, like, you know, guys really kind of get through the spiritual aspect of life? Like, how has your mentors, or you been a mentor to other people, help people?
Yeah, mentorship is very important, but mentorship shouldn't be an end all be all, right? Mentorship should be a blip on the radar screen to say, hey, if you decide to ask your mentor, what can I do different? Take that perspective, and then based upon that perspective, tailor it around who you are, right? We are not robots. And so therefore, if I'm mentoring somebody, I give them my perspective, and I make sure they understand this is my perspective. This is not your life goal, right? So that's the first thing. You give people independence of thought to discover things for themselves. The best mentors do that. Second thing, mentorship, you got to be vulnerable. Vulnerability takes a lot of courage, right? I'm vulnerable with my people, right? I'll tell them, hey, these are the things that I go through. These are the things that concern me. These are the things that I'm not good at. You got to find out what you're good at, and then you got to deal with that in your way. That's the second thing. The third thing is, I don't hide things from my mentees. Like, you're talking about being a different religion. Just the other day, somebody invited me to an event 3 months ago, and they saw my bio, and they immediately accepted. Oh my God, we're gonna have this guy got 2 doctorate degrees, 5 master's degrees. Oh, you're in, right? And so it wasn't a big deal to me. I speak all over the nation and internationally. But then they started doing their research, right? They found out that, you know, I was Muslim. And 2 weeks ago, even though I had got invited 3 months ago, they disinvited me. The young lady who put the program together called me in tears. She said, "Oh my God, sir, I'm so sorry. My supervisor found out exactly who you were, and he said, you know, there's going to be people in there who don't like your religion, and you shouldn't be the guest speaker," so on and so forth, right? And so one of the things that I told her, because she wanted to go to EO and IG, I said, "No, listen, don't run your career over that stuff. That's foolishness. Right? He needs to grow up, right?" And so one of the things that I tell my mentees is, you are going to experience challenges with people who don't like your gender, people who don't like your ethnicity, people who don't like your religion, or whatever. your first response don't always have to be to get them in trouble. For me, my response is always, I am so happy that I'm resilient enough not to go into this room and cry and say, woe is me, they don't like me. My response now is, because I'm older and mature, is, oh, well, I have somebody next week that's probably going to call me. I'll go speak there and put it on video. They probably need me more. You see, until you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at will never change. I just changed my perspective. I don't go places where people don't want me. I don't need to be in the presence of people who don't enjoy my company. If people want to put a label on me, oh, he's Muslim, so he probably can't teach me anything. Well, I probably can, right? So those people who are in my life who know that I just want to help people along their way, those are the people that I hang around.
Yeah, that's a good point. Don't what they say, don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
You know, the message is powerful.
Yeah.
And so in conclusion, like, what are some one quick words of wisdom that you got for everybody?
Be. Whatever that is, on your title of this, it says, be yourself. That be is so powerful, because whatever that be is to you, you got to spend 100% of your time being that, right? I do not, I know what all the self-improvement books say, I do not work on my weaknesses. I enhance my strengths. I'm going to be what my strengths are. And you know why I came to that conclusion? I got a couple of degrees, right? And so in all of those degrees, there is specialization, right? Education, master's degree, religion, PhD in Christianity, PhD in Islam. There's specializations, right? Nobody is calling me in to answer about the theory of relativity. So why should I work on that? Nobody's calling me in to do and build houses. So why should I work on that? So I came up with something that is valuable for my life. I focus on what I'm good at. And the things that I'm not good at, I get people around me that are good at that. We practice this in the Army every day. The commander is the commander. We got an S.1, we got an S.2, we got an S.3, we got an S.4. He puts people around him, or the Army put people around him or her that are good in those areas. So why should me, one person, try to correct all of my weak areas? I think that's inefficient.
Well, hey, Chaplain, we want to thank you for coming through today. And this ends our show. We will catch up with you later.
I will be expecting a check in the mail today.
All right. CIME. Thank you all for tuning in. We out.